Hi, everyone. It's Regine Rousseau, and I am so excited to be back interviewing someone I really admire. We met a few years ago. I had the pleasure of moderating a talk with Dan, and then I just followed him like a fangirl and have like just been inspired. So it's awesome to have the conversation. Let me formally introduce you, Dan Petroski. Dan is an incredible visionary and innovative leader in the industry. His 2009 founding of Massican Winery in Napa, California, specializing in white Italian varietals, was pioneering. He is not only a winemaker, but also a facilitator who brings conversation in the industry forward with his thoughtfully planned roundtables. Furthering the reach of his winery, Dan has developed tools for success, including a virtual magazine on Instagram and a groundbreaking NFT. By showing that technology and wine are compatible, Dan is pioneering a remarkable path in the industry. Dan, how do you feel about me reading that bio?
Oh, Regine, it's so good to see you. I don't like reading anything about myself or hearing anything about myself. I just like to move forward. So every time I hear it, I get goosebumps, and I appreciate the kind words. Thank you.
You're welcome. But let me say, I'm so glad you this was your response because I think every once in a while we all need to sit down and read our bio because it's hard being an entrepreneur, right? It's hard being a leader, and sometimes you need to remember what you've accomplished, and also it helps you to remember who you want to become, right? So I've given, I mentioned title, winemaker, visionary, leader. How do you define yourself? Who are you? Which title best identifies you or best speaks to you?
It's funny. I never really call myself a winemaker, and I'm not sure because that's really the profession that pays the bills. But years ago, I started, as you mentioned, a virtual magazine on social media, and then and now on the newsletter Substack. Um, and I've really thought of myself as someone like I don't want to use the term content creator because it gets overused. I think it's a great term. I think it's relevant for a lot of people in our space. But for me, I think of myself more as some sort of editorial guiding principle in a sense, like someone who can take, again, an overused term, storytelling, and just project it out into the world and build it around a brand. I don't think of myself as a winemaker from a winery. I think of myself as an editor for a brand. And
Mm-hmm.
that includes how I think about making wine. I think
Okay.
about the stories. I had a conversation today about a new wine to release next year under the Massican label, my first time releasing a Pinot Grigio. And I was telling the winemaking team I'm a sucker for stories, and stories mean everything to me because that's how I got into this industry, falling in love with the names and the places and the people and the wines that back when I was starting my career in publishing in the late 90s.
So let me ask you this. One of the reasons that I gravitate towards you is because you don't you don't do anything the way that everyone else is doing it. Okay. So this business, and I don't mean this in a negative way, we can be old school. We can do the same things the same way over and over. And it takes a lot to come into this industry and say, well, wait a minute, this is amazing. I love it. But how about if we did this? And then how about if we did that? I can't imagine the crazy stares you got, some of the pushback. We're not naming any names, but where did you find the strength to say, no, I do have a better way or a different way, and I'm going to go with it?
Well, I think we have to first reference the comment that you made about when we met. You were moderating a panel at the Napa Valley Finance symposium,
Mhm.
and it was a panel between myself and Kathy Corison. So Kathy Corison, a legend, who also a friend, and I think we couldn't have had more oil and water on the stage with that
Absolutely.
panel
Yeah.
that you moderated. And it was because of, Kathy she's the OG, right? She is making wine in a traditional sense and believes in the rote and the repetition of this practice from a perennial plant that's known as a grapevine is stuck in a singular soil and made into this beautiful, bountiful, luscious red wine. And where Massican is, I don't own a place. I own a place in my mind. I own a place, hopefully, in your palate and in your mind and your heart as a believer in what I'm doing. So it was easy for me to break out of a mold because I wasn't in a mold. I didn't
Yeah.
have to sell a place or a thing. I talk about it all the time as it's not a winery, it's a brand. It's not a grape variety, it's a style. It's not a vintage, it's timelessness. These are things that are not necessary. They're used in marketing at luxury companies. Maybe LVMH will use conversations that way in their marketing and in how they envision their brands. But it's not so much when you're dealing with a small region like Napa Valley that was built on history of place and people from the Bob and Davies of the world to the Kathy Coruscants. And I think that they have a specific approach towards doing things. And then a lot of people will gravitate to that and want to be part of that.
Yep.
To your point, yeah, I've always kind of came at it in a very slightly different way. And I don't think I think people gave me a look and then they were like, oh, interesting. Maybe
Mhm.
not for me, maybe not my
Right.
particular brand of vodka, but I see it. I can see what he's doing, and hopefully someone could extract, a little bit of inspiration out of anything that I'm kind of the weird, wild, crazy shit that I do on a daily basis.
Well, I mean, seriously, I'm not just trying to like make you feel good today, but it is inspiring. I think it's especially inspiring when you are a solopreneur or you're sort of an outlier in the industry and you're like, how do I make my mark? And seeing someone come in and create something different, something that feels uniquely you says, oh, wait a minute, maybe I can do this. Maybe there's a way for me to tell my story or create a brand with my own history, my own view. And I think it's absolutely fascinating. Okay, I'm going to read my next question because it's so good. I don't want to get it wrong. Okay. So I want to talk about the historic sale of Massican that just happened. I mean, I was listening. Let me tell you something. I was jumping up and down. I was like, yes. I was having a moment. I apologize, audience. I just broke professionalism, but I don't care. I was super excited. Okay, so let's talk about this. Recent Vine Pair article, you said, we need to get out of the love affair of niche production. So, as an entrepreneur myself, I see the sale as a win for you. I see it as this opportunity to be aligned with a larger organization, which means more resources, which is what all smaller businesses need. Also, this is not unusual. From my understanding, Gallo has had this relationship with a lot of family-owned brands. So this is not new, but for some people they were just shocked, like, wait, what just happened? So let's talk a little bit about this and what it means to you and what it means to the industry as a whole.
I I want to highlight the word you said, family, and Gallo family has been doing this for 3 generations now, and it's kind of the leading generational family in American wine, in fact. So they've purchased and worked with and partnered with family brands like J Winery, Judy Jordan, who's I can see the bottle above your shoulder,
Yes.
Jason Paulmeyer, Randall Graham, now and currently, the Rombauer family, and then currently, with Massican and countless others. And their support has come in, just this incredibly familial and empathetic and friendly way. When, Joe Gallo said to me, "How can I help you?" He meant it. It
Yeah.
wasn't like we're going to gobble you up and spit you out into this, mass market brand. It was like, how can I help you? Because I appreciate all the things you're doing. I'm rooting for you to win, and
Mhm.
I want to be a part of that. And that's a lot different conversation than I've had over the last 15 years when I would hear from random people who are on my mailing list or just random people who just, say they fell in love with my brand and what I'm doing and want to be an investor. Like that doesn't resonate with me in that way. So to have, Joe Gallo be part of that, just this kind of, walking side by side with me and asking me those questions as opposed to coming straight at me and saying, I want this.
Yeah.
It meant a lot to me as a creator of the brand and the fact that there is no succession plan with Massican. I don't have any children. So
I'm
my
available for adoption.
so my,
No.
so my
Well,
wife and I, we have to kind of, set the brand up for the future. And I couldn't have found a better place. And they're giving me, all the creative control, all the winemaking control, all the resources, not to worry about capital expenditures to grow and develop. I spent the last 3 years of my life, kind of stressing over cash flow.
preach it.
And
Preach it. Yeah.
so it's really difficult to think of, managing your business that way when you want to do all this crazy, cool, fun stuff that costs money.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like I come from a publishing world and I want to pay people their value and their worth. And I want to make sure that I'm, kind of supporting friends and peers and colleagues in the industry. So it was really great to have that stress relief taken off my shoulders and then told that you can continue doing what you're doing, and we'll be there for you. And then we will help you broaden the network, but we're going to do it slow. It
Yeah.
was definitely like we want to do it with you, but we want
Mhm.
to make sure it's methodical and organic, and it's going to take us 5 to 10 years. It's not going to be a 5 to 10 month turn the faucets on situation. So that was really important to me in the decision making process, and it felt like I was gonna still be able to have the Masakan vision continue to develop over time because I've still got a long way to go to where I want the brand to be. Um, and I get to be part of that without, with the resources behind me of the largest wine company in America buys like one of the smallest wine companies in Napa Valley. I think it's pretty shocking to a lot of people, but I thank you for your enthusiasm and your kind of like cheering on the process. So I appreciate that.
Well, let me tell you what I love about what you just said, and you gave us a lot, but what I am picking out is your definition of an investor versus a partner, someone who wants something and someone who's going to walk alongside you. And I think that as business owners, or leaders, we need to think about that. And I'm sure, correct me if I'm wrong, there were moments where, like, wow, I could have used that investor, but waiting for the right partnership for your business sounds like that was key. And that's what we all have to work through is, do I need an investor? Do I need a partner? What's going to be the right decision for this empire, for this business that I'm building?
100%. And I measured, kind of like the famous poem, I measured my life in coffee spoons, right? I'm like, I've been writing business plans every 5 years for Masakan,
Mm,
and I've been hitting my targets and reaching my goals. And this last 5 year plan, this opportunity came well ahead of where I wanted it to be. It wasn't at year 5 in my plan. It was in year 3 of my plan. So I wasn't prepared for it. But making, the conversation as a partner, as you so defined, which thank you, because it actually makes a lot more sense the way you said it. It was actually felt so good, even though the timing wasn't, the way I envisioned it. And
mhm.
it just hit me by surprise and it felt really good. And I had to say yes. It was the right thing at the right time. And it's made me a lot lighter with regards to the stress of my being a solopreneur and and especially in wine where wine is so dependent upon Mother Nature as an agricultural product.
Mhm.
So yeah, I had some tough years in 2021 and 2022 with the droughts in California, not hitting my goals of wine production, which kind of kept me slowed down my my growth projections in my plan.
Yeah. Well, I love it, and I'm here for all of it. So let's move on. So, one of the ways that you've made a name for yourself is by embracing technology. Um, since the wine industry, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, is, an industry of farmers, and many people are still a little bit behind in their use of technology. Um, can we talk a little bit about maybe some advice that you have for your peers? And, is there a place where you would say, start here? If technology scares you, here's one thing that you can implement today that may move your business a little bit further.
You know, I agree with you 100%. I think some of the romance and the beauty and the kind of nostalgia of wine industry is about, not being technical, being, hand farming, kind of, hand tilling, less machine work in the vineyards. Tractors are the only thing that are going to support your agricultural kind of production. And there's nothing wrong with that. Right. And there's nothing at all wrong with that. And we've, as a community, we use spreadsheets like everyone else and all those other things. But with me, it's so funny. We are kind of as an industry, we're kind of we struggle behind this big wall of regulation because we're making an alcoholic product, right? So I think of, the biggest problem we've had with technology, not use of great technology, is that there's not a lot of e-commerce platforms, the best ones in the world, the Shopify's, et cetera. We've been building our own e-commerce platforms as a small wine industry because of some regulations about who we can ship to, how we can ship, licensing and compliance and so forth. And then, my wife used to always say, the smartest people in the world live 2 hours south of Napa Valley in Silicon Valley, and they're your fucking customers. Go down there and talk to them about how you can start to implement, better use of technology into your business. How do you, it doesn't, we're not talking about making Frankenstein wine by a computer at all. We're talking about how can we get better, e-commerce platforms? How can we get more ease of flexibility of using technology in a way that's going to introduce our wines to more people, whether it be through email marketing, social marketing, et cetera? How do we reach new audiences? That's everyone's goal, and not only in wine, but in all businesses. And I love the book that came out a few years ago about 1,000, true fans. And what I've learned over the course of 15 years of my mailing list and my direct to consumer and my relationships with those customers is it's not 1,000 true fans. It's 100 groups, but it's 10 groups of 100 people. So now you have to manage 10 sets of people. I'm just using this number as an example, but it's like the channels in which you have to act are so more diverse than just a singular mindset. So I think technology can enhance and help us, be actively targeting, but actively communicating and actively being part of people's lives if their experience with wine is through a Vivino app, for example, or through an email from a retailer or an Instagram account or something. Like all these little components are relevant and important to meeting the customer where they are. And I think that's a term that's people banter about all the time, but they actually don't practice it. And that's the thing that I've done, to the best of my abilities, wake up every morning and say, no one thinks about Massican except for me. I need to make Massican part of my customers' lives. And that's why I think about, oh, how do I take art into the blockchain? Or how do I build a vineyard on the blockchain? Or how do I create a put 1,500 words on Instagram when it's a photo sharing application? How do I do these things that are going to meet the customer where they are and introduce Massican to their lives in a non-intrusive way, in a way that they want to experience it? And I think that's been the most important use of technology for me. And it's not a broadest sense of technology. It's all the things we use on a daily basis anyway. Um, so it's been a really fun ride. It's just the, jumping in the pool without knowing if you can swim or not. And then what I've seen in this industry, and I've seen with other industries and entrepreneurs, is the first time something fails, they jump away. They're like, just say no more. It's like you can't just do SEO once. You got to do SEO for 5 years.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can't do
Yeah.
Google advertising once. You can't have a PR agency for 1 year and say it doesn't work. You have to, it's 4 years, 5 years of repetition. And I
Mhm.
think that's people are afraid of spending money to do that because they
Yeah.
fear that they're doing something wrong.
Absolutely.
And I don't think it's wrong at all. Like fear is the best motivator. And that's what
Mhm.
gets me out of bed every morning is the fear of not being Massican, not being relevant in the world.
Mm.
And that is important to me because what I do every morning as my meditation is I
Mhm.
actually get on 5 social media platforms for 45 minutes every morning.
Mhm.
And I don't get out of that seat. The average is 45 minutes, but I don't get out of that seat until I see something on TikTok or LinkedIn or Instagram or now Threads that motivates me and say, I
Mhm.
wish I would have thought of that. That is really, really funny. That is really, really useful, productive, et cetera, in so many inspirational ways. And then once that's my meditation, it's like that's my brand building in my head of how I'm going to continue to think about the future. I literally look at social media and get inspired by the people who are more creative than I am.
Mhm.
And it makes me feel bad that I didn't achieve that, but it's actually a meditative, positive motivation for me.
Okay.
And I
I'm going
love
to
that.
I'm going to implement that today. I love, no, no, I love that so much. Here's why I love it. I love it because so many people want to dismiss social media. And I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, there's no dismissing it anymore. And I love that you are looking for inspiration. And that, I remember telling my niece and nephew when they were much younger that jealousy is not a bad thing. And they were like, what do you mean? I said, it's not, it's how you respond to it. So when you are in a situation and you see someone doing something and you think, man, I wish I had done that. That is the universe, God, whatever you believe in, saying to you, this is what you should be doing. This is what you should be aiming for. So I love that. I'm going to implement that. I think that is such key advice. And the other thing I heard you say is you took what you knew or what you know to build your business. You come from a publishing world, you understand publishing, and you use that knowledge in order to move your brand forward. And sometimes maybe it's not about a fear of technology, maybe it's not about learning something new, which we all should be doing, but it's about asking yourself, what do I have? What do I know? And can this knowledge push what I'm doing a little further?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't care when interviewing anyone about their skill set. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
skills can be in different industries can be learned and can be taught, and it's a lot of repetition. What I cared about is how passionate you were about something. Like
Mm-hmm.
it could be anything. It could be art. It could be Matchbox cards. It could be baseball cards. It could be, anything that just gets you to raise in your seat and talk enthusiastically.
Yeah.
If you have that in you, that is important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, I think that there's something in our lives that we can kind of use in everyone's lives they can use as a means to help their professional career, even if it is so diverse from what their professional career is. And I think that's why I've enjoyed not being an academic when it comes to winemaking. And has it slowed me down? No, I'm a very curious person. I ask a lot of questions. I do a lot of research and so forth and so on when I need to. Um, and I'm humble about the idea that I don't know anything about, how grapevine grows or photosynthesis or fermentation kinetics. Um, but I'm able to kind of help shepherd, the grapes to their final destination. But I think it's really important to kind of trust what you love and
Mm-hmm.
see how you can actually broaden your universe into like whatever that hobby is into your current profession. And you'll be surprised. There's more ways than one to do that.
Well, I don't know about anybody else, but I cannot wait for your book to come out. I'm
No
telling
way.
you,
No,
yeah. Well,
no way.
listen, I am here for it. Some you have so much knowledge, and I just, the way that you speak about what you do is so freeing. It's so inviting, it's so open, and it's saying you too can do it in your own way. And I think that that's what the world needs to hear, as opposed to this is the only way of doing what you're doing. So this entire series is about leadership and speaking to leaders. So I have two more questions for you. One of them is, what makes you a great leader? What do you lean on so that you can be an effective leader for your team?
I think it's less of leadership and it's more of community gathering. I've always done a really good job of bringing people together, whether it be parties. I mean, I played football in high school and college, and I've always been part of a team network. And I always I feel that bringing people together and showing them a good time and showing them that things can be done, whether it be on the field or or anywhere. And I just think that that is for me has been a blessing in my career. It's just this idea of hospitality, just be welcoming. And let people feel safe at times, and but you also have to be from an athletic perspective, you have to be harsh. You have to also pull the expectations out of people as well. So I've gone through different phases of my career in that way. But as a leader, it's really about bringing people together and getting them behind an idea. More so, less leadership, and hopefully, I don't want to use this word, it sounds terrible, but like more visionary in a sense. Like, this is what we can be doing. This is the goal, and let's get behind it and let's figure it out and get excited about it. And I think that's what Massican's success has been, is just this little idea that, the little engine that could. And because it resonates with a lot of people in different ways. And that's important to me.
Yeah. So, last question, and how can we support you?
Um, I always tell everyone, just stay on for the ride. Look, because I am not done. And I am
Amen.
I love, and the crazy thing, the shitty thing that people who've worked for me will tell you is that I'll have an idea one day, and then the next day I'll have a completely other idea. And they're like, well, which one is it? I'm like,
Right.
it's an evolution of ideas. It's not a singular, it's not we're gonna do this and that. And then it's an evolution of like constantly not stopping the
Mhm.
process of understanding and not stopping the process of curiosity. Um, and being free to say your crazy ideas. I remember in college we had a bad idea board like on the refrigerator. Like it was kind of a comical thing, and like, what is the worst idea possible? And it wasn't because we were trying to be entrepreneurs or anything. It was just bad ideas are funny, right? And it makes people laugh. And so I've always just been in a place where I love ideas and I love the creative act and the arc of getting to that idea. But I'm wired, because in my previous corporate career as well, to in business school, to write a business plan and make sure that the idea has value and worth. And I simplify the business process so many times with people, and they don't want to think of it that way. But I'm basically like, how big is the pie and what's your piece of it? Are you
Mm,
going to grow the pie, or are you going to steal from someone else in the pie? If you
mm,
can't answer those two questions in your business and marketing strategy and
mhm,
your financial strategy, you don't have a business. You don't have an idea. And
mhm.
so every one of my ideas goes through that simple process. And then those are the things that I keep pushing forward.
Have you coached people in business or just
Yes.
conversation? Oh, okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
Fantastic.
Very, very informally.
Okay.
Just casually as a mentor. I think I've given probably 20 people my 5-year winery business plan model so that they can plug and taught them how to use it so they can plug their own information into it. And it's a very simple dashboard. And then it fills out like a 5-year cash flow and everything, and growth model. So a number of wineries have started using that business plan or
That's
that
so
kind of financial
generous.
model.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like I felt that I was welcomed into this industry, many years ago, and I just need to pay it forward a little bit. I probably paid it forward a lot more than I needed to, but it's wine, man. It's like it's not that important,
It's
and it brings us
community.
all pleasure. Yeah, brings us
Yeah,
all
it's
pleasure.
community. And it all comes back, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It does come back.
yeah.
All right, Dan, thank you so much for your time. I like I said, you inspire me. I can't wait to see what you do next. And I'm glad we had this time together.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to kind of raising a glass with you when I see you next.
I will be in Napa soon.
I look forward to it.
Cheers.
Cheers.